Very good evening, everybody. Welcome into your box seat, brought to you in association with Sweet Lou, standing at Woodland Stud. Massive show ahead, reviewing what happened in the last 7 days, most notably, of course, the Inter-Dominion final, and then we'll look forward to a cracking night at Alexandra Park. In fact, they go back-to-back Friday and Saturday. Michael Guerin, very good evening to you. Are you back on New Zealand time yet?
Not quite yet, Gregory. Big hi to you, big hi to everybody at home. I hope the crazy time of year with Christmas coming up is not driving you too mad. And Grego, Lazarus drove the Australians mad at Gloucester Park on Friday night. It was a very surreal experience being there, not only because of the performance you're about to see, but there had been a lot of argument beforehand from people from different states, because people are quite parochial. I think we can do this and that can happen. And you had so many horses who were at the peak or close to the peak of their form. And after the race, walking around the stabling area and around the fellow media people and presenters and people who've been in the game for a long time, people keep coming up and going, oh my God. I kept wanting to say to them, well, didn't you see the New Zealand Cup 13 months ago? It was quite a surreal experience. It's like I said on the show last week, with a lot of the Australians, until they've seen it with their own eyes, they don't believe. Now, they believe.
Yeah, $3 million in the bank proves a point for sure. Let's go back and have a look at this wonderful performance by not only Lazarus, but trainer-driver Mark Purdon.
Tiger Tara, Lazarus, Tiger Tara, Chicago Bull can't get there, Lazarus in front, Chicago Bull goes to second, but it's the great New Zealander, Lazarus. Lazarus has won the Inter-Dominion, Chicago Bull second, Tiger Tara third, a half head away fourth was Volton 10.
Michael, we can no longer say it's a rear salute from Mark Purdon because we've seen it a few times now, but that was about as out there as he gets. He gave it a bit of a swirl as well because he was brilliant. I thought his drive was outstanding. He allowed those to go forward early and then he just dictated the race from the park position.
I think it was satisfaction too, Greg. At the start of the series, I had a really long talk to Mark about what happened after the first round of heats. He said, gee, this is going to be hard to win. This is going to be harder to win than I thought it was. He actually said it on the show. This is going to be harder to win than I thought, because it was a closer series to the New Zealand Cup than what Smolder contested last year. There were more in-form, very good or good horses in this series. And of course, he doesn't have that gate speed some of the Australians had, so he was going to have to win the hard way. So there was lots of things which had to come together, but in the end, he just peaked this horse magnificently. The drive was inch perfect because he controlled what was happening in front of him. He said, I was just popping up to Tiger Tara to keep him revved up, to keep him on the steel, but also watching for Junior inside me on Chicago Bull, and he knew he had the horses behind him covered. I spoke to him at length on Thursday night. He said, I'm not going to go off the gate, I'm going to let them burn off the gate and then go around at the mile. It worked exactly that way, which is quite rare for it to work that way. So here is the start of the race, and obviously Tiger Tara leads. As you see, Mark, very soft hands, doesn't get involved. Soho Tribeca has a small look, and then Chris Alford comes around midfield in those yellow colours. So Mark read this as an I'll let them sort themselves out, and then with the mile to go, I'll go up, and I reckon I can sit parked and win. I thought maybe Greg, and I think everybody thought he could sit parked and win. I don't think many people thought he could sit parked and win quite that easily.
No, that's right. And at the 600 metres, you could see as they entered the back straight for the final time just how well he was travelling. So, out parked, Lenny the Shark 2 years ago may not have given up this position, but he's not as good and over the long campaign that this series has been for him. He looks there, Have Faith in Me was never going to get parked, so Chris Lewis had to go back to last, but Mark sums this up beautifully. He realised the time to go was now, and then bang, straight round to park in a straight line. Very hard to hold out a horse like him.
And also I agree that because Lenny the Shark was maybe below his best in the heats, he was going to get there easier. He may not have got there under different circumstances 18 months ago. As it's turned out, this has been inch perfect because now the leader's been revved up. Chicago Bull was still always going to be the danger, and what we'll see later is that he doesn't close at all because they come home in 54 seconds, 27 back-to-back. Soho Tribeca is a little bit unlucky because he gets behind the wrong horse later when Have Faith in Me moves. But none of these are excuses, Greg, because he's covered a lot more ground than them and he's been clearly better than them. He's travelled the furthest to get there. He's had the hardest month of all these horses outside of Tiger Tara, who's getting a lot easier run than him in front because he's covering less ground. Everything was against Lazarus in this series. and he won. He's now silenced any critics or potential critics about whether he is the best horse in Australasia. And now the question is, what happens next? Because he seems to have a smorgasbord of Grand Circuit races basically there for the taking.
Michael, he's just shy at this stage of the season with nearly $2 million in the bank for this season of where he was last season for the total year. So it's an amazing amount of money. Mark Purdon won the race with Mark Hanover. Of course, he won it last year with Smolder, and now he's done it with this horse. Since the millennium, Yulstar, El Sue, Mr. Feelgood, who was a quasi-Kiwi, I suppose, being trained, and Smolder. So it shows you how hard it's been for the Kiwis to win, particularly in Australia, the Inter-Dominion. But you had Black's a Fake and Bowtide and I'm the Mighty Quinn in the mix, those.
Yeah, and also it's a lot harder in Perth. Perth's an awfully hard place to go to. These local horses are well suited. Here's the last 600 metres, and we'll let you listen to this because it is worth hearing. Lazarus outside the leader. And around about here, when Mark Purdon starts looking round, you think to yourself, well, surely he can't be going that easily. I guess he was.
No run, Chicago Bull, have faith in me, he's out 3 wide, Volton 10 the inside, 27-4 next quarter, Tiger Tara responding, just in front, Lazarus comes hard now, Chicago Bull, he's off the pegs, Volton 10 the inside, Lazarus has raced up to Tiger Tara, Lazarus, Tiger Tara, Chicago Bull can't get there, Lazarus in front, Chicago Bull goes to second, but it's the great New Zealander, Lazarus has won the Inter-Dominion.
So a brilliant performance from him. He's now 33 from 40 and he doesn't really have anything else to prove. I thought Chicago Bull, you couldn't say underperformed, but even when he came out, he didn't go whoosh. What I don't concur with, Michael, is the fact that everyone believed this was a deep Inter-Dominion final. You had Chicago Bulls, won $1 million, most of that in WA. Soho Tribeca's won $500,000. He's a WA horse, never raced, you know, outside of that. Significantly, I'm talking about on the Grand Circuit. Lenny the Shark at the end of his tether. Yeah, I just didn't think that it was as deep, and therefore that's why I had so much confidence that Lazarus could do exactly what he did.
I think it was deep with form because most of the horses here were in form, which is rare. Often the Inter-Dominions, a lot of horses sort of sneak into the final because of good barrier draws, and maybe Volton Tan did there, but when you think at the top 5 were in form, so, and Tiger Tara had beaten Lazarus, as had Soho Tribeca, so there were 3 horses in the race who had beaten Lazarus already, which I think most people go, okay, well, I know they can beat Lazarus because they have. He's never been in a field before with 3 horses who have beaten him. So I think there was a lot of positive feelings about some of the other horses, not that they were in the same class. And the other factor is Lenny the Shark clearly
It's not the Lenny the Shark.
He's not gone,
yeah,
but he's nowhere near the form that won in the Miracle Mile, which wasn't that long ago, only 8 months ago or 9 months ago. So after the race, Mark Purdon seemed almost more satisfied than elated. Well, Mark, even for an incredible horse, that was pretty incredible.
Oh, that's right, Mick. Yeah, he's a champion. And he sort of had Tiger Tara beat down the back, and he cruised around the last corner, handled it great. And yeah, when I asked him up the straight, he was too good.
At that stage, when you did have Tiger Tara beaten, you were looking around and holding on to Laz. Was that to keep Chicago Bull in a pocket?
Oh, yes, absolutely. He was the one to beat. He'd done nothing, and there wasn't the early speed that, perhaps I thought there was going to be through the race. So, he was getting a cosy run, and with that sort of run and the speed he's got, he was going to be the horse to beat.
That being the case, were you surprised he couldn't make any ground on you because nothing did?
No, he's a champion, though, Mick, so it's hard to make ground on them.
With that early tempo being a bit slower than we thought, or even a lot slower than we thought, were you initially concerned in that first lap?
Oh, well, when I made my move and to get parked, I was pleased when I cross-parked. I knew then it was the right decision.
You've won 2 New Zealand Cups by very big margins, and of course you won a Victoria Cup, a Chariots of Fire, and a stack of other races. Where does this sit? Because you're a long way from home with the horse who's had an enormous last month.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thrill, and it all comes together, all the hard work and planning, and it's a job well done.
What next? The Freo Cup and the WA Cup are here. Will the horse stay for those?
Yes, he will, Mick, yeah.
And you'll come back to drive him and train him for those, or because obviously a busy time back home?
It's a busy time, but we'll work it out. I'll certainly make all efforts to be here anyway as much as I can.
After that, I presume Victoria and then on to the Miracle Mile at Menangle?
Yes, that'll be right, Mick, yeah.
Have faith in me, you had no luck. You got a good view of me. He's outside you with a lap to go, but with that early tempo being so slow, it was never going to be his race.
No, that's right. He was there for a good way too, so he's probably gone a good race, but I haven't had a chance to talk to Chris as yet.
Let's go back to Laz for a second. You've had so many great horses, but to add this to all those other feature races and still the promise of more to come, is he now clearly your best ever horse, or is it too early on a race night to start making those sort of statements?
Yeah, look, he's the perfect horse. I mean, he sat out there and he just moved up each time I asked him to on Tiger Tara, and that's what he's like. He's just so professional, and you know, he knows what it's all about. He knows where the winning post is, and he just works so well with you.
When you go back to what seems a long time ago, 2 weeks ago, for the first round of heats when Soho Tribeca beat him so easily, were there any concerns there about the racing style of this track and your lack of gate speed and how much harder it was going to be to win this series?
Oh, it certainly made me aware that it wasn't going to be easy, but, you know, the second night he was better, the third night he was awesome, and the week's training he's been just awesome again.
He's worth a lot of money as a stallion, a domestic stallion these days. Are you confident you'll get him to train again for next season, maybe even the season after? Because the owners keep saying they're more interested in racing than they are in breeding.
Yeah, well, I think we'll just cross that bridge at the end of the season and make evaluations yet. It's sort of, you know, he's got a lot of racing to get through, and, you know, something's going to happen with issues, soreness issues and things like that. So probably early to make that prediction.
You look, and you looked in the race at the finish line, a pretty satisfied man.
Oh, yes, well, that's relief too anyway, because he carries a lot of pressure everywhere he goes, and I know how good he is, and I don't want to let him down, and, you know, it's, as I said, it all comes to fruition, all the hard work and everything, and just a relief of satisfaction when it's all over.
Yeah, a terrific all-round effort for Team Lazarus, and yeah, he stays over there now. Obviously, he's going to race for a whole lot more money, and he'll become New Zealand's richest ever domestic pacer. Of course, Monkey King holding that mantle slightly at the moment.
Yeah, by about $120,000. Frio Cups on the 12th or 12th of January, and then the WA Cup for huge money on the 19th. And clearly he's got those horses covered if he performs to that level again. Now, Mark has been suspended from driving. He's appealed that, but no stay, so he will be available to drive in those races. Then the Hunter Cup, first weekend of February, $500,000. Then he has to contest a prelude of the Miracle Mile to make the Miracle Mile, because last year he didn't. He got in via the Chariots of Fire. So he'll go to the prelude and then the Miracle Mile. I think that'll do him. I don't see any other races for him for the season. So coming back, Gregory, there's a chance if he holds his form and wins even half of those races, he'll be well past $4 million in stakes. And then you start having conversations about where he sits in the grand echelon of things. I mean, obviously, it's hard to get into conversations about Cardigan Bay and those type of horses, but in the modern era, his record is better than any other horse, his record. Because Christian Cullen's potential was never realised. He had a very shortened career in open class. From other horses in the race, Have Faith in Me has been confirmed as sold, but because it's winter in North America where he's going to the east coast of North America, there's no point sending him across. So he'll stick around, race in WA. I think he'll probably race in those other races too. With Chicago Bull, I agree with you. He didn't go as well as maybe his heats form suggested. And I spoke to Gary Hall Jr. He said, I just think the whole series got to him. But he said, I wouldn't have beaten Lazarus regardless. And Soho Tribeca had no luck. He's going to be a really good addition, I think, Greg, to the open class grand circuit, because he's fast and he's tough and he's going to make races. I'm not saying he's going to beat Lazarus, but he's going to make races. The other question mark is Lenny the Shark. Where does he sit? Pretty hard to make a case on what we've seen in the last 2 weeks. Lenny can beat Lazarus again. Still, I wouldn't have thought he had any chance of beating in the Miracle Mile, sitting parked last February. So it's all Lazarus's now, to win or lose, and I suppose bad luck and unsoundness now loom as his two most realistic rivals.
We're about to go on to potentially another rival for him, which will be Ultimate Machete. Just on the consolation, was won by the Bucket List, by the way. Beat a Hoka punter, so yeah, he's done a great job.
And one of the really good guys of harness racing, and Michael Brennan, super guy. So it was one of the more popular wins, but it was funny after. Even the race we're about to show you comes after the Inter-Dominion final. Everything else was just like this other thing. People were just walking around Gloucester Park just going, what did you make of that? It was a very surreal experience to be there. And I'm not very parochial about harness racing, but you could feel the real Kiwi pride. And even in Mark, you could feel the fact that people thought this was a win for New Zealand, even though the first 3 home were bred here, of course, and all bred by Peter's Delight.
Yeah, great effort by that sire. And let's head to Ultimate Machete now and winning the Golden Nugget. Here's the end of the race, but there's plenty to talk about, particularly around the start. But once again, he was simply too good.
Roosevelt, Ultimate Machete goes for home. Now Max Affair getting up on the inside. Herrick Roosevelt followed by Rock Diamonds, Modu Meteor. Ultimate Machete in front of Merrick on the outside. Max Affair and Herrick Roosevelt and Ultimate Machete all the way. Ultimate Machete has won the Golden Nugget. Second home Max Affair. Third Herrick Roosevelt.
157.6 mile rate. He was brilliant once again, but he had barrier 1. He got crossed at the start. We need to have a look at this because this is where the suspension came from. Here's the footage for you. So just like a fortnight earlier, Michael, a lot more speed outside him, and Mark had no real opportunity to stay in front. But when we see the Piccadilly Princess race, we'll see why he did this. He comes straight off there and just pushed one a fraction wider. Now, if that happened here in New Zealand, he probably would have got a warning. It happened in WA, he got 26 days.
26 days and $1,000 and $500 for abusing the stewards, which I find extremely hard. I shouldn't laugh, I really shouldn't. But
well, Mark hasn't got an angry bone in his body, or very seldom do you see it.
I think he was frustrated. I spoke to him before he went in the room and he was like, what's happened? How can I be in trouble for that? And you can sort of see what he's thinking, because if he stays in there on Ultimate Machete, he gets beaten on a $1.20 chance, and people say not only is he an idiot, the stewards question him about why he didn't try and push away. You can't. He had to do what he did. He didn't check the other horse.
No horse galloped.
It's consistent with their rules over there, but it's a crazy rule on a small track where you have no passing lane and so many horses who fly the gate. If you don't have gate speed, then you are open to being beaten and not being allowed to push away, because once that field had compacted, he wouldn't have got off. So he drove it perfectly. He got 26 days. You've got to roll with the punches. I've always believed, New Zealand drivers get harsher penalties from the stewards. In Victoria and in WA, it's happened in Queensland before, there seems to be a lack of communication between the two. The horse also didn't show his best. He's pulled up after this race a bit sore, but proppy there, you can see after the race. I think it's just one of those concussion things in the hooves. He got a bit sore, very hard over there.
Michael, we're about to see Vincent resume at Alexandra Park on Friday night, and he had his measure at the end of the 3-year-old season. Where does he sit, Ultimate Machete? He's won a New Zealand free-for-all now, and he's won both of those feature 4-year-old races in WA, so...
What that reminds me of, the Ultimate Machete Vincent thing, is very similar to Monbay Speeding Spur. Like, Speeding Spur was a better 3-year-old than Monbay, and when they came back at 4, Monbay just advanced very, very quickly. Won a New Zealand free-for-all, ironically. Same race for the paces that Ultimate Machete won. So I think last season's gone, and I think with Vincent it's very hard to say he's going to be as good this season as Ultimate Machete. So he's pulled up a touch sore, nothing major, and he could potentially go to the Ballarat Cup and take on Lenny the Shark. He won't go to the Hunter Cup because Lazarus is heading there. He'll race the same night on what's called the Bonanza, which would qualify him.
It's 100,000, isn't it?
For the Chariots of Fire. Now, Vincent will go to Cambridge on the 24th, and he can qualify for the Chariots of Fire there too, so they both could be heading the same way, but I think there's a lot of water to go under the bridge before we see them go head-to-head. Outside of that, I thought they're not a great bunch of 4-year-olds. That wasn't the best version of him, and he's had quite a long month, but that's what I thought. What did Mark make of his second Group 1 for the night? Well, Mark, that couldn't have been much easier for Ultimate Machete, but you didn't actually need to get into him, so he probably could have won by a bit more.
Yes, yeah, he's a great stayer too, Mick, so you could have rolled on quite away from home and maybe that would have sorted them out even more, but he just did what he had to tonight.
Where does he go next? Does he stay here and take on the big boys, or is it back to the eastern seaboard of Australia?
He'd probably go to Melbourne and a race like the Ballarat Cup probably, and then we'll go into the Bonanza, which is a qualifying race for the Chariots of Fire.
Okay. So we would see him potentially going Melbourne, then Sydney, but you wouldn't see him potentially clashing with Lazarus in a Hunter Cup?
Make that decision a bit later, but at this stage I just want to place him where, place him and space him.
He looks to have filled out on last season. He was big enough last season even. Has Vincent now got the job to do to catch him? Because last season Vincent was maybe just a little bit better, but it looks like he's had a pretty decent head start on his 4-year-old season.
Yeah, look, both were great 3-year-olds. There wasn't really much between them, but Vincent perhaps overshadowed him a little. But yeah, look, he's come up great this horse, so Vincent will want to have come up good too.
Looks like a perfect night, but it wasn't. Piccadilly Princess still looking for a run.
Yeah, she was dead unlucky and got a great run on transit, but when we needed the room, it just wasn't there.
First 6 home in the Golden Nugget were all Kiwi breds. Let's move on to Piccadilly Princess, and well, she was very unlucky. Michael, I suppose, reflected in the way he drove Ultimate Machete was because of this. He could have got out early in the race, Mark, but chose to stay there. Maybe the lead wasn't there at all, but as we'll see, the tape will roll on here. Ideal Alice will win it, but she'll never get out.
No, and that's indicative of these tracks without passing lanes. A lot of people want to tell me passing lanes aren't great and we shouldn't have them. This is a prime example of why you should. Nothing the gallops and greyhound punters hate more than watching this. I backed this thing, it had no chance, blah, blah, blah. And that would have been Ultimate Machete. That would have been exactly what would have happened to him under the same circumstances. Whether you like them or not, if you want to attract punters from outside the harness racing family, you need passing lanes.
No doubt. Yeah. She's won about 400,000 now, the American Ideal, Ideal Alice. Of course, she started out her career with Tony Hurley.
Yeah, she did, and that export market's crucial. The WA export market is massive for us here in New Zealand, so it's a lot of money, goes into a lot of people's pockets out of that. I hope you enjoyed the night. It was a crazy old series, Greg. It's kind of weird because people struggle to stay up that late into the morning. Ultimate Machete raced about 2 o'clock in the morning, but it's a really significant thing what happens there. As you said to me before, Lazarus has won almost or as much money as last season already, so it's a long way to go, but it's proved to be a very worthwhile experience the last couple of years for Team Purdon Rasmussen.
Yep, definitely. That wraps up WA for another year. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll review and preview what's been going on at Alexandra Park. Welcome back into your box seat. Of course, brought to you by Sweet Lou, standing at Woodlands, Alexandra Park Friday night. Really good race night it was. The 23rd running of the Breeders. And this was an outstanding performance. 239.1. Wide on the track, Alexandra Park. You see, she put in a rough one there too, was Bonnie Joan. Nobody really could believe that she picked up Opotama.
Impressed. Look at Bonnie Joan really fly home down the outside. Opotama, Bonnie Joan. What a first look at Alexandra Park. Double D with the Southland Queen, Bonnie Jones in. Very, very tight second.
Well, that was a brilliant performance, wasn't it? First up at the park, well, they just can't do that, Michael.
No, very un-Alexandra Park-like racing there for a couple of races you're about to see tonight, but gee, she made up a stack of ground. I watched the replays for that and thought, because I didn't see it live, I thought there's no chance she can win from there. But I knew she'd already won because I'd seen the result, and I thought, well, how's it work? I mean, how does it work? I didn't think she was that good. Now, she's heading into a race this Friday night, the Queen of Hearts, which 3 months ago looked one of the races of the year. Dream About Me has since pulled out. The Orange Agent has pulled out. Better Be Amazed it didn't go well enough the other night. This race has been eviscerated, and this horse is the perfect horse for it now.
Have you ever used that word on trackside before?
Probably. I've used a lot of words. I say a lot of words, Gregory. Look, she's just turned up at the right time. She has a chance now to become a Group 1 winner of a serious Mears race, and on that performance, it's going to be awfully hard to bet against her. Party On, I thought, needed the run, lost the back of Bonnie Joan.
And gets a front road rule
exactly,
this week.
It was clearly better, and Party On's going to be the danger. But let's see what Dexter Dunn said about the super impressive Bonnie Joan.
Yeah, obviously from the draw we got dictated to a little bit early. We ended up sort of, beyond midfield. Pretty good suck up behind She's a Cullen Girl from the lap to go, and so did make a move around the bend when it started to tire, but took us a while to get around that bend, but she really linked it out really well on the straight, and really happy with the performance. It's obviously her first look here at the park, so she handled it pretty well, and yeah, she comes through the run good, which I'm sure she will. She usually does come through a run, so yeah, looking forward to next week.
Yeah, an outstanding performance. Let's have a look at the market for the Rossland's Queen of Hearts at Group 1 level. Party On, the big winner, barrier draw wise. $2.90 for her. Opotama was really good in that race, as she was behind Bonnie Joan. She'll be getting sick of her in the Mares race on show day at Addington. Seaswift Joy just got in the wrong spot, back on the inside. She may well find herself there again. American Tart, well, she hasn't been as good as what she was first up when beating Bonnie Joan, but I wouldn't say it's a vintage Group 1 field, but there's enough quality there to get people interested.
There is. I think a lot of people will work on the proviso that if Party On can lead, she can probably beat Bonnie Joan, but if she can't, on what they did last week, it was an even race and they covered the same amount of ground, then Bonnie Joan has to be the one to beat. But Party On's a proven Group 1 horse. So if the best version of her turns up and she can get the lead, Bonnie Joan's going to need to be awesome, but she was last week. So one of those races, Greg, which I think a lot of people will think about, take another look at, and then they'll draw their line in the sand and say, yes, I think Party On's getting the front, or no, I don't. And that would be the thing which would make me bet one way or the other.
Sire Stakes final for the 3-year-old fillies, of course, is on New Year's Eve evening, as we know, at Alexandra Park. So we'll have a look at the last of the heats, and well, it was Crandell Getty and Dexter Dunn at it again, and this was another very, very good run, Michael.
This was even better than Bonnie Joan. She's come from further back, Better Joy. I know they are paddling up the straight, but this was a huge win.
Better Joy opening up strongly in Sea of Gold. New York Rain delighting me. Better Joy right on the peg. Better Joy, Double D and Cran, they get a brace by a nose. Second over will be Delightin' Me, then New York Rain, Sea of Gold.
Yeah, so another terrific performance coming off the speed there. What she got now, Michael? 5 from 13, well over $100,000, 2:1.1 I think was the overall time, so very, very quick, and that allowed her to finish over the top like that.
Yeah, she's done a lot of travelling in her career, and she's been up and down form-wise because she's been growing and, you know, obviously headed to Australia and had a busy time over there. But
that was first up.
That was massive. One of those wins where at the top of the straight, again, I watched this race knowing the result and I thought, well, something must happen here. How did you get up and win this?
Well, it's because I picked her on the box seat the week before in our challenge.
Again, I don't want to talk about that. But like, that was massive. And it goes up a level, a big level this week. It's a smaller field, but it's a very good field. So if she can beat Dizzy Miss Lizzie and Co this week, then she's going to be awfully hard to beat in the Sire Stakes final.
Glenn slow-mo on here again.
He loves the slow-mos, He loves them. But New York Rain was really good after a hard run, and she's run third. But
Delightin' Me, another very good run too. Yeah.
And she's got a bad barrier draw this week. So look, Better Joy versus Dizzy Miss Lizzie. It's the markets are out for that too. I'll show you that market. You can sort of pick your own there, each of two. It looks like, but yeah, with the 3-year-old fillies, barrier draws are crucial, and Better Joy has the better of the barrier draws this week. That Sire Stakes final could well come down to the same thing, but Crandell Getty has arrived north with an informed team, and Dexter Dunn has driven them inch perfectly, considering where they had to come from in their respective fields. So Gregory, you go up 5-3 in our little punting challenge, and tell you what, you earned it there.
Yeah, definitely. At the top of the straight, I was thinking, well, I'm in a power of pain here, but here's the field.
So here's two of your girlfriends.
Yep.
Dizzy Miss Lizzie's one of your girls,
yes, she
and
is.
Better Joy's one of your girls.
Which way am I going to go?
Exactly.
$2.80 Dizzy Miss Lizzie appeals to me. Spoke to Nigel McGrath, incidentally, it's his birthday today, so happy birthday to NR McGrath.
How old would Nigel be?
Oh, good question. I reckon 42.
We'll say 21 then.
So 280. So she's first up at the park, but I asked Nigel about that. He said, no problems going right-handed. She's had the measure of Almac and Better Joy in recent times.
If you watched the racing last season, Elmac 480 from barrier 2 just looks glorious.
Yeah, but she was very ordinary last time. I will follow up with Natalie Rasmussen as to how the bloods came back off the back of her fourth in her heat, because she was only average. Let's have a look at...
Well, something about Mary's $6.50 there. She'll start $15.
Yeah, there's no chance she'll be paying that. But let's have a look at Dizzy Miss Lizzie. This is the final heat in the South Island. So Elmac was in this, of course. I was on track, interviewed Nigel. He said she's big as a bull. She really has developed. We expect her to go well. I hope she makes the top 3 so we get in the final. Well, what she achieved, Michael, was quite remarkable when you consider the Purdon Rasmussen team were in front of her by a good 2 or 3 lengths.
And Elmac the leader, margin still ahead on Bare Knuckle. Angel of Harlem gets back to the inside from Shebang and Dizzy Miss Lizzie. New leader, Bare Knuckle's gone past Elmac. Shebang, Dizzy Miss Lizzie closing. New leader, it's Bare Knuckle in front of Dizzy Miss Lizzie, who's driving, and Lizzie won it. Dizzy Miss Lizzie won it a nose or a half ahead over Bare Knuckle and Shebang.
It's funny how quickly things can change for the 3-year-old fillies, because when you saw that she was the favourite for any race she was in, then Better Joy was so enormous last Friday night. Greg, we see this a lot with these 3-year-old fillies. They can go up and down very quickly, and it could be very barrier draw related for these two horses. But this week, clearly, Better Joy has the better of the barrier draw, so can probably dictate to Dizzy Miss Lizzie. Elmac is still the horse I'm confused about. The more I watch that race, you're right, you can't back her to beat those other horses, but if she did beat them, you'll go, oh, what's the All-Stars?
Well, she's won 2 Group 1s at Alexandra Park as well, so she's certainly got the form on the board. Short break for us. When we return, we've still got a heap of stuff to preview around Alexandra Park. Our box seat preview continues of Alexandra Park and the Alabar Classic, formerly the El Sur, of course. I think we're up to about number 14, but gee, it's been won by some good horses. Here's a look at the market, and this is a good field. Chase Auckland, winner of the Sire Stakes. First up, Alexandra Park. Almost feels like it's home for him with his name, $1.65. Second to him in the size was King of Swing. You'd imagine David will be looking for the front again, $7 there. All You Need Is Faith was great. We'll have a look at that race shortly at $6.50. And Spankum, who in many ways, Michael, the forgotten horse amongst the 3-year-olds, is $6.50 and has A.G. Hurley this week.
Well, on what they've done this season, how is Spankum inside King of Swing? But Chase Auckland will probably just win this. I wouldn't be surprised if he started $1.30, not because the field quality isn't great, it's outstanding, but once the punters come for a horse like him, they'll just keep coming. He'll be in all the multis. Let's go back to the Sire Stakes final. He was excellent. Winning on that occasion was Chase Auckland. King of Swing was really good, but really hard to make a case for those who finished behind them, beating them with the way the barrier draws worked out here, because they've got the best of the barrier draws again. I think Chase Auckland might actually start front.
Do you think it'd start front? That's what I was going to ask you.
I think it will, because if you hand the lead away, then you don't dictate your own sort of destiny. But that's him up the passing lane. There's King of Swing in front, and most of them in behind go fair enough, but gee, puts a gap on him here.
Then Pat's Delight. We're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. We're all chasing Auckland, and Chase Auckland won it. Has beaten King of Swing, Cullen Byrne, through the middle third.
So smashed the national all-comers record at that stage, did Chase Auckland. Yes, he got the perfect run, but he dealt to them and he's unbeaten. I reckon he might stay in front as well. All You Need Is Faith. Well, he's improved, and he showed last week what he can do when he gets the right sort of run. He did get a beautiful run here, and Ashley Locas was in front, copped a little bit of pressure, but you had to love the way he found the line.
I think he's a really good horse, and I think he's a horse who can win a derby. That's him up the passing lane, obviously winning. But is he a horse who can come around Chase Auckland and beat him? I probably think not. I think maybe he lacks Chase Auckland's high speed, but I do think he can win a major race somewhere, Greg. I'm just not sure where it's going to be. Put him in barrier 1, Chase Auckland in 7. I'll be happy to back him. With Chase Auckland having the advantages with the barrier draw, I think everybody's going to back the same horse.
The Devil's Own's been placed second 4 out of his 5 starts this time in, and this is a massive run from My Generation down the outside, but the Devil's Own sat parked. He was very good.
He was, but these aren't top-class horses. These aren't the best 3-year-olds, and actually My Generation's turning into a lovely horse for Derek Bull, but Yeah, on that, on what I've seen all season from the Devil's Own, he's yet to show me he's improved on last year. And physically as a specimen, I thought he would, Greg. I mean, we all did. Every single person thought he'll be the one who comes on the most as a 3-year-old. I just haven't seen that. Maybe he's going through a growing phase. I just don't know. But whatever he's doing at the moment, it's not good enough to win these races.
Not at all. Just on another point, the Sales Series final course on the 31st, Aloka's definitely coming. He reckons he's on top of that, Nigel McGrath now, and Sheriff, who unfortunately bled last time, he's trialling and maybe on the bus up there as well. The float up there too.
And look, it's always a great race, and they run at enormously quick speeds. Alexandra Park, mid-afternoon or early evening, they go very quick there. But at the moment, it's really hard to go past Chase Auckland Greg because no one's beaten him yet. And I'm not sure we know how good he is. And we might be talking about him in 6 months as a horse who's won 2 derbies and this final and the Sire Stakes, and almost a bit like Lazarus. At the same stage, you don't know how good they are, or Auckland Reactor, for those ones who come as 3-year-olds. So it's his title at the moment to lose, but it's a very intricate sort of series of events that come through these derbies and who travels where and who goes to Victoria and who goes to New South Wales. So it's going to be an interesting month, and then a lot more interesting as we get deeper into the summer with these 3-year-olds because they have a lot of racing.
Speaking of the summer, it was the Summer Cup on Friday night, and Heaven Rocks was starting off the back mark of course and was stopped once again by my good mate beside me.
This is my fault. What about this? I've picked him, he's lost 20 at the start, he's led, and he's been run down by Star Galleria. You could have got any money on earth about Star Galleria beating Heaven Rocks 3 months ago.
Star Galleria dashing, Heaven Rocks, Star Galleria, Rodder Tussle, Star Galleria. Star Galleria 242.8. They equal the national record up on the outside.
Well, he did, and of course that means Heaven Rocks smashed it. They got home in 53.7, 26.1. That's remarkable, and he got beaten. Heaven Rocks.
2 weeks in a row, I picked Motown, who broke the national record for 2200, and Heaven Rocks. I apologise. Whoever's horse I'm picking tonight, I apologise in advance. I'm sorry. Funny thing going into the Auckland Cup there, because you can't be disappointed with Heaven Rocks. You can't go, well, we didn't go good enough, because he went super. He broke the national record by 1.5 seconds. But, I mean, it's hard to back him to win an Auckland Cup.
This is Star Gallery's going life, though, wasn't it? You know, sitting in the right spot at that speed. It still took some doing.
Oh, I think he's improved on last season. He had the speed last season. I'm not sure he was strong enough to live up to his speed, but gee, he's been super in 2 runs back, and where that improvement curve stops, who knows?
He's now 4 in a row.
Everybody in Northern Harness Racing's happy to see Reedman having a good horse around him, and look, I'm not sure he can win an Auckland Cup, but there's no reason to think he's not going to be a player in the race. He's at least a top 3 factor, and there's a stack of races for good 4-year-olds. Heaven Rocks, really interesting this week. Really interesting. Change of driver. With Mark Purdon suspended, Natalie Rasmussen has chosen to drive Vincent this week in the Franklin Cup, and Tim Williams goes on Heaven Rocks. Now, Heaven Rocks, I would think, is probably the trickiest horse in the country to drive, and I like Natalie driving the horse, and that's in no way being demeaning to Tim's driving. But once Natalie gets off this horse, you start to wonder why.
Well, let's hear from the winning driver and, of course, Natalie, who drove the second horse.
Yeah, he went super. You know, he'll get quicker and quicker away from the stand, which is good, and to do everything right that first start, and then to beat a horse like Heaven Rocks is pretty special with the sectionals they run. So a bit of a shame I'm only warming the seat, but you know, Jack Sedgen, they're 2 very nice 4-year-olds. So Tony's got a good drive for next week, and you know, he's a lovely horse and he's going to do a great job.
Well, he went very good. Like, he hasn't started since Cup Day, you know, so he probably needed the run tonight, and he hasn't trialled. So he was pretty pleased with him, really. His manners are okay, so yeah, he seems to like it up here, and I think he'll be better for the run.
Yeah, well, it was a very good performance by both of those horses. We want to show you the video of Vincent winning at the Ashburton Trials before he's come up here. Of course, he's the all-comers record holder for the 2,700 metre stand. I just wanted to show people how well he is going and where he sits, and we'll have a look at the Auckland Cup market shortly too, and that is quite a remarkable thing. Here he is. He's not beating a whole lot here. That's Swamp Major to his inside, but he was, you know, he was Vincent, and he looked very comfortable.
I think nobody doubts how good he is. I mean, we all know how good he is, but gee, it's going to be a hell of a thing to win this fresh up. Like these are very race fit, race hardened horses. I was surprised Natalie chose to drive him. I understand maybe they wanting to look after him and see where he is, and Heaven Rocks, they probably know where he is a little bit, but I think we're going to see the Auckland Cup market shortly. I can't believe how short he is in the Auckland Cup market for a horse who hasn't raced this season. Now, all these horses are fit, and we know they're ready, and we know they're racing well, and yet he's $2. Well, I'm not saying he won't win the Auckland Cup, but gee, I struggle to take $2.
Well, you can't back him at that. Heaven Rocks is $2.40. Jack's Legend, who, let's face it, was second best to Lazarus in the Cup, and beat Tiger Tara home.
Go through them this way, Gregory. The second favourite, third favourite, fourth favourite, fifth favourite, sixth favourite, seventh favourite have all done things this season which made you go, wow, that was superb. And Vincent hasn't yet. No. Now, he hasn't had the chance to yet, but yeah, leave me out of $2 for him yet. I understand where the bookmakers have come there because it's a confusing market. They weren't sure who was going to start. Lazarus was nominated and clearly he wasn't starting, and they've waited to put the market out because of that. So Franklin Cup is the race on Friday night, Greg. And in this market, I thought, see, ironically, you're getting more money there for Vincent to win than you are in the Auckland Cup. This is actually a pretty good, I think this is a balanced field because Jack's Legend's got a chance. Titan Banner's really interesting. Now,
well, he won the race last year.
Yep, and back with the All-Stars, and Dexter drives. He's in good form. AG's White Sox off the front line. It's a nice bit of balance to this, considering Vincent can't be at his peak. So what do you make of it?
Yeah, well, I just think he's too short, but again, I concur with what you're saying. Where do you start him off at? So that's where they've found it. I reckon that'll move around a bit, that market. I like AG's White Sox, definitely as a place proposition. I know he's about $3.40. He'll step, he'll get himself in the right spot, and we've already seen he can follow speed. He followed the Fixer, and just about, well, didn't follow him,
and
but
he's race fit.
Nearly beat him, and then he won the Green Mile.
And he's race fit, and you would think they're not going to send Vincent on a mission. I know it's $50,000, but they're not going to be like tapping him up to go around the field and
he's
charge
one off 10 metres too, so there's a little bit in that.
It's almost a buyer beware situation with him and with the other very, very good horse who returns this week we'll talk about shortly in Speeding Spur. Very few horses win fresh up. Even Lazarus almost got beaten fresh up this year. So very few horses win fresh up in this grade. So, yeah, just be a little bit careful about the 205.
We wouldn't be surprised, though, if he just turned up on one.
I wouldn't be surprised if he won by 3.
Exactly.
But, it all comes down to how much you're willing to take to find out.
Let's have a look at the Rossland's Lyle Creek, of course. Speaking of Speeding Spur, he does return, and we'll get to his price in a moment. Temporale, outstanding last time, $4.20. Beat Le Monde, who has a better draw, $4.50. Remember last year, Sunny Ruby won this race. Now in the training of David Butcher.
Now, I spoke to David Butcher this week. He said she's arrived north.
Well, she trialled last week, so...
Yeah, she looks fantastic, he said, but it's really hard fresh up. Now, there's Speeding Spur, $2.50. Went to the workouts last Sunday and easily beat Bordeaux, although Bordeaux was making ground on him at the line. So this is the workout last week. Speeding Spur in front, Bordeaux outside him. Here's the commentary of Cameron Shaw. Two very, very good open-class trotters.
Bordeaux got to its wheel, and that's as far as it got. It is still Speeding Spur in command and starting to draw away in the last little bit. It is Speeding Spur, too good for the mare. Bordeaux closes off very nice the last few metres. Then the Almighty Johnson in third, followed by You're Gonna Kiss Me.
I thought he was good there, Speeding Spur, and spoke to Josh Dickey at length this week. He said, look, we're really happy and we think he can win, but... And you have this conversation with trainers all the time. Greg, when they come back, there's always the but. He's as fit as we can get him without having raced, and Bordeaux made really good ground in the last 100 metres, will be a lot fitter.
He's made a fair fist of being fresh up before, though, hasn't he? Because he was fresh up in a national trot and finished third. Second
to Monbay. And this time, about last year, he came back and beat Temporale, giving him a 45-metre start. Yeah. He's the best horse in this race. We know that. Him and Monbay are better than the rest of the trotters in the country, Greg, but it's a big ask. Drawn barriers 1 to 3, I think he'd lead and he'd be too good, but there's enough here about Le Monde, Temporale, Sunny Ruby, obviously Bordeaux, that you can sort of make a case that he can get beaten.
Well, he's $2.40 to win the national trot as Speeding Spur. Here's the market for you, ahead of Temporale, who... Well, I won't be taking $4.20 about him, as good as he was last week. I want to ask you about the Foot Tapper. Second in the Dominion last time, and he couldn't make the field.
That seems weird to me.
Well,
I don't
think they've done it
that.
based on the ratings, and he's the lowest rater, but you can't run second in the Group 1 and then not make...
Well, and especially when the Group 1 winner's not in the race. So of all the horses who raced in the Dominion, he is the one who finished the top and couldn't make this field. I think that the foot tapper being the emergency for this field, and Destiny Jones, Reel Me In, Arya and the Almighty Johnson being in the field is nonsense.
Yeah, it's rubbish. Surely there's some discretion has to be invoked there, surely.
Yeah. Well, people get paid to do this.
Yeah.
Your job's to pick the best field. Pick the best field.
Yep.
It's gone to Barry Purdon, by the way, the foot tapper, which would suggest to me that Paul Nairn's probably off to the coast.
He loves his coast trip, for sure. Let's have a look at the young guns. Of course, they kick off, the 2-year-olds, and always look forward to this. Beautifully bred, Better Get a Lovers. Got Barrier 1, Jeff Dunn, Jared O'Reilly. They've been and done the business at age group level at Alexandra Park before. Stun Guns are Stun and Cullen. Horse with Paul Court and Ricky May. It's trialled up nicely. Franco Niven has trialled really nicely and is a close relation to...
Do you have any thoughts on this?
Franco Nelson. Quite like the way Franco Niven did trial, and also Smart Fortune trialled well for Mango. So we'll have a look at a couple of these trials. Here's Smart Fortune, and he's very good in the Howlett colours. Comes through on the inside here, and he finds the line really strongly. It's always really hard to get a line on just, trial. This is a trial effectively, but it's under race conditions because it's at the park, and as you can see, it's at night too. So that, I think, is definitely going to benefit those horses that were in it. So that was a nice effort by Smart Fortune. He's got a wide-ish draw. And then Franco Niven, who also started that night. This is the Robert Dunn trained runner. He's in the trail here. Sort of loses it a wee bit there, and you think, oh yeah, didn't sort of cope with that bend too well. Have a look at his last 100 here, Michael. He really charges. That Stun Gun wide out in the Mongolia Horse Syndicate colours, but very, very comfortable performance from him there. And yeah, of them, I sort of like him. I think he's got a fair bit of scope.
He looks pretty advanced, doesn't he? He looks to have natural high speed and a nice big chesty 2-year-old, but I love when the 2-year-olds come out. It's interesting to see how the different sires produce their horses. And one thing I would say, Gregory, is trainers who tend to win these early young gun heats tend to win them again. They have very similar patterns they follow with other horses. And this time last year, Alta Maestro was really good in these. So that last horse, you sort of go, a little bit of Robert Dunn factor there. But yeah, look, it's all in front of them, and I don't think anybody has an opinion yet. Nobody has come to me yet and said, I've got a superstar 2-year-old. I think they're all willing to say, look, we've got good ones, but they tend to go from 2-2 for a mile to 155 very, very quickly.
Yeah, they do. We're going to have a short break here on Your Box Seat. When we return, there were several milestones over the weekend, and we'll have a look at some of those. Yeah, it's always a big occasion when you drive your first winner. A couple of blokes did that at Cambridge last week. Here's the first of them, young Luke Whitaker, of course, son of Jeff and Trace, and his brother Josh has already done the business, driving for Tony Hurley there, who got the Quinella with Hot Flush. So good on you, young fella. He's a really likeable bloke and works hard. He spent some time at the Robert Dunn barn. He's always keen to help out, and he gives a big salute there. Nice work. Really pleased for Luke. And, well, look at me on the same card. Nathan Delaney does the same with Willie Doo out in front, coaxing the horse down to the line, and he gets his first win. Both guys had 20-odd previous drives, but delighted to be able to do it on, of course, that night. So congratulations to them. Then we head to a training win. Probably not surprising given what his father and brother have been able to achieve. I speak of Brad Williamson as Nathan comes back at the head there. Well done to him. And here's Jetty, are you ready? Getting the business done at Forbury Park. Similar colours to his father's, of course, Phil's with the black, blue and white, but well done to him. He part owns that one as well, pretty sure, and Jetty, are you ready? Gets that done. So, in fact, he might own it all on his own. And Stephen McRae, Well, he's been a good trainer for a very long time, and this was a good performance. Namira Franco missed away, never looked likely, and then stormed home at the Mott. Jet played well that track on Sunday. They came from everywhere. She's a smart horse, though. Actually part owned by the Organ Donation Saves Lives Syndicate. They had 2 winners on the day. Aaron Cole and the team there. The other one was Selena Franco, so congratulations to them. Hard to win 2 races on a day, and those boys, Steve McRae, Craig Thornley and the owners did that.
Yeah, well done to the guys with their first win. It's always really important, but well done to Stix McRae too. He's never trained a large amount of horses, and I think he's one of those trainers who every time I see him with a horse in a race, I have a second look, because I know he's a really good trainer. So he's a guy who, had he been in a bigger stable environment with more outside owners, would have easily trained 500 winners. Very good horseman. Now,
we get to the most important thing really this week for the young drivers, and that is the Australasian Series crossing Queensland. Our representatives are Dylan Ferguson, Cherie Tomlinson and Kimberly Button. There's Kim. Kicks off tonight at Redcliffe and then heads to Albion Park on Friday, and then culminates on Saturday night. So a wonderful opportunity for these young people.
Yeah, and they make friendships which last 20, 30 years, lifetimes. You hear so many of the older drivers, you talk to them, and I've known such and such, you know, from the junior drivers champs all those years ago. It's a huge deal for them to qualify, great experience for them. Good luck to them. Ironically, Greg, it's a cliche, but they've all won by getting there, because they aim to get there. After that, you draw horses, and it's really in the lap of the gods.
We've had good success in it, though, like Andre Patama, Josh Dickey, I think, won it as well. There's been a string of Kiwi performers that have done well.
And the more time you travel and see the way other people train, and you see Dexter spent some time in Australia as well, when he started his career, it's good for you. If you only get used to one sort of racing, you can drive just one sort of driving. I think it's really good to go over there and experience a different type of racing. So
Mark Jones,
good luck to them all.
Yeah, he's won it as well. So yeah, we hope they do very well over there, and good luck to them. What about what's happening this week? Well, racing is just enormous. I can't believe how many meetings we've got at the moment. Second of the Manawatu's this week. Blair Orange, another very good night for him all day on Tuesday. So the Manawatu with the pick 6 there. Alexandra Park. Have a look at that. What an outstanding program.
Are you going to be there, are you?
Yeah, I'll be there with the big fish.
Oh, good.
Yep, so I'm looking forward to being part of the coverage there.
Which one of those races are you looking forward to the most?
Oh, I think the Queen of Hearts is pretty intriguing this week, with Party on Drawn where she has, and the likes of Bonnie Joan and Opotama not as well drawn. So yeah.
I'm looking forward to the Lyell Creek. I think I'm really looking forward to seeing Speeding Spur back.
I'll be at Addington Saturday night. There's actually 2 harness meetings Saturday night, because of course Alexandra Park back up.
Like the old days.
Yeah, it is. It'll be fantastic. So I'd imagine the Whale will be on course for that one. I'll be at Addington, and I'll be at Rangiora on Sunday too. They've got a $30,000 fast track insurance pick 6 there. So it's not over, because Winton race that same day. Both Dexter and Blair will be south, not at Rangiora. So
what about that premiership? I mean, for all these years, we haven't been opening a drivers' premiership because Dexter was going to be too hot a favourite. We open one, and he's $6. This is remarkable. Blair, you keep expecting Dexter to close this gap, and he will at some stage.
Well, he did
sure.
at the weekend. He went well.
But man, $1.09 for Blair. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Let's have a look at bets of the week from last week, Michael. I've been looking forward to this.
This is getting embarrassing. I feel like I haven't done anything wrong, and the gods of racing just seem to be like just taking aim at me after the Heaven Rocks incident. So I'm actually going outside the square this week. I'm going Sartorius, who trialled really well on the weekend. And I think Josh and John Dickey are going to have a big couple of months. You're going Ocean Ridge, that funny little horse who I thought last year as a 2-year-old, Greg, wasn't too far behind the good ones.
No, came up to Alexandra Park as part of the Young Guns series, has trialled nicely, and from barrier 1 I can see it being in front and winning that race, so that's why I was pretty keen on it. I was talking about the number of horses that are around at the moment. It's incredible. Like, you take this week, Addington race Saturday night and Rangiora Sunday. Alexandra Park, okay, numerically it's a bit of a battle, but they've still got 2 meetings this week. You've got the Manawatu in the Central Districts, you've got Winton as well. And trialling in Canterbury, there were a stack of them there yesterday, and then today there's another set of trials at Motukarara, I think it was, and Rangiora have got workouts. There's another 140 odd horses going around there. So I know there's a lot of opportunity and people love racing their horses at this time of year, but there seems to be a real depth at the moment in terms of numbers.
What it does, it creates a chance in April to September. because all these horses are trialling and racing and they're going to the same place. They want to go to the Mott, or they want to race and go at the same time. Want to go to Reefton and the coast and all that sort of, I understand that. And it's great fun. You take the family and it's sunny and it's nice. But the reality is, you're racing sometimes 17 other horses and still trying to get the same size of a pie. If some of these horses were to race in winter, Greg, they're racing 7 or 8 horses, trying to get exactly the same size pie. I think sometimes winter is an area of harness racing which isn't sexy, it isn't cool. Trainers want to take a little bit of time off and sneak away with their families. Not many of them get big holidays. But I do think to myself, unlike our galloping friends, where you have to race the gallopers in summer because they can't handle the wet tracks of winter, there's a window of opportunity there for some trainer to go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep these 5, not race them where everybody else wants to race. And we're not going to have a lovely picnic at the Mott. I'm going to race them at Nelson and Winter.
Just do it purely financially.
Because it makes sense. And when you see this glut of horses turn up, you go, we're trying to ram 1,000 things into 100 winning spots. And I do think there's a lot of money now because the stakes don't tend to drop off over the winter. They tend to be very consistent. So I'm not saying it's for everybody, and I understand the owners want to race at places. Some people love going to the coast. I understand, or the circuit down Otago. I understand that, Greg, but financially, some of this doesn't make sense.
Couple of horses returning this week. We saw that Vincent trial before Swamp Major heads south, so it should just about be winning there. Young Mark Hurrell takes the drive on it. I think it's penalty free if it wins that. And Neck Time returns at Addington Raceway on Saturday night. Now, she was the Queensland Oaks victor. We thought her career was over. She's back. She's got a wide draw, but she's quality.
And also talk about Neck Time, because you know she's going to make a really good broodmare. Also coming up this week, the catalogue for the sales. So the PGG Rights and Sales catalogue has come out. A lot of people will start looking through that, and yeah, obviously a few names will dominate that. Bettor's Delight and Art Major, Greg, but that time of the year is coming around very quickly. So in about 6 weeks' time, when things calm down a touch, we'll look into those here on the box seat. But geez, an exciting time, mate. Lots of racing to look forward to.
Yep, appreciate your input, particularly from Perth. Hope you've enjoyed your box seat. We'll see you again in 7 days' time.